Something strange happened today, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to get into a ton of stuff. In this video, of course, we're going to go over what Bill Maher recently said regarding the LA fires. We're going to get into something strange that I noticed that a lot of people didn't seem to notice. And it has something to do with Ronald Reagan. And it has to do also with the TikTok ban, if anything, if you could even imagine that. We're going to get into how these two tie together and show you something that already occurred that everyone's not aware of. All right, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into actually a ton of other stuff as well. Some interesting clip I found regarding our former prez. I guess, can we call him that yet? Can we call Joe that yet? You're not going to believe what this guy had to say about Joe. And so much more. Let's just get into this. We'll start here. Let's start with Bill Maher and what he had to say about the LA fires.
At least in the Palisades, the hydrants were still there. 300 other ones around the city are just gone, stolen for parts. One of the three reservoirs for the Palisades was offline at the one time of year when it was most needed. LA's Mayor Karen Bass, the Nero of American politics, was fiddling in Ghana while the city burned and later placed the blame on 8 months of negligible rain and winds that have not been seen in LA in at least 14 years. Yeah, that's not that long a time. Maybe look in the history books to see how our ancestors handled it back in 2 and 11.
Everyone's fed up, my friends. Just everyone knows something did not go right here. Was it on purpose? Well, that was the question Mel asked. And a lot of people think maybe it was. Or is it just gross negligence? Which one is it? We have here former Wall Street broker Ross Mandel says they were planned. I'm going to shock you. People from BlackRock are now, of course, going door to door and, offering to buy homes. Let's play this really quick.
I'm going to comment about this, and I'm going to shock you. People from BlackRock are going door to door, offering to buy homes.
Yes, this is what he's saying. This guy is a real estate, former Wall Street broker. All right, let's play a little bit more.
Now, they say, whatever you do with the insurance company is your business. Fix what you want or don't. Here's a price we're willing to pay for your home now. BlackRock is going door to door.
So, of course, some people were predicting this may happen. We saw this happen before. And, of course, it is kind of interesting how State Farm just so happened to cancel tons of policies just before all of this occurred. And it was back in July when they did. Almost like they knew something. Or it was just weird coincidence. Just a weird coincidence this all occurred. I guess it's just that. And as I mentioned, we're going to get into something about Ronald Reagan and TikTok. How these two things together show you something that's already happened that no one seems to be aware of. But before we get into that, and it has to do with the inauguration, okay? But before we get into that, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 4 weeks worth for $197. You're going to definitely want to get this if you have not already. You've seen all the wonderful things happening around us the last few years. If you're assuming everything's going to be perfect and hunky-dory for the next 4 years, I'm telling you that's not going to be the case. But hopefully it does go very well, and I think he is going to turn things around. But it is not. It's going to be an uphill battle. They're not going to just stop trying, okay? We got to keep going. It's wise to have that just in case. Link is in the description. This book here, The Lost Ways, how your great-great-grandfather lived without electricity, how to build a cellar, do things around the house like they did in the good old days, hundreds of pages illustrated. You're going to want that before the electricity goes out for 3 weeks, all right? You're not going to be able to buy it at Walmart. About the only person selling online practically. Get it, link below, printed version, $37 plus shipping. At any rate, of course, also my website, GR Video's got lots of awesome stuff over there. Go check out that as well. let's get back to the video. So, of course, we have here, and this was actually interesting because this will throw you a little bit of a curveball. Bruh, why isn't TikTok working for me in Canada? Well, maybe it's because you're the 51st state, my friend. You're the 51st state. That's why it was not working for you. But of course, everyone already knows TikTok is now working again, right? It was turned back on today for some reason. TikTok begins restoring service for U.S. users after 47 comments. Well, who gives a... I mean, he's not in yet, is he? I thought he wasn't in. I mean, how is his comments going to restore it? You see what I'm getting at? Or it's just one day. No, this is actually an important factor. The company said TikTok was coming back online in the U.S. after President-elect provided assurances. How is that enough? He is not currently the president. Supposedly, okay? Let me show you something interesting I discovered. So, of course, back in 1985, you might know that President Reagan canceled his outdoor swearing in. That sounds familiar. That sounds very familiar. In favor of a rotunda swearing in. That same exact thing happening this time. But did you know that he was actually sworn in the day before? Today. Did you know that? Is he already sworn in and no one knows it? Why else is TikTok unbanned? Does it even make any sense? Shouldn't it at least wait until he gets back in and then sign something so it can occur? Or maybe he already signed it. You see what I'm getting at? Now, of course, I could be wrong, but what's interesting is this man says that they're probably going to do that today. What if they already did? You see what I mean? What if they already did? Which is probably what did occur. Why else is TikTok back online? I mean, it's not like he can, well, look, he wishes it will be the case, so we just making a wish come true. Why would they make the wish come true? He has no power, supposedly. Yet. Or does he? Maybe he does. Of course, it's being done indoors. Just like Ronald Reagan. Just like he was sworn, of course, in the day before. Just like maybe it's already occurred and you don't even know it. But of course, they're even talking, and again, this is what this man says, Alex. He says, perhaps they're going to cancel the entire thing because he's already sworn in. He's saying, well, he didn't say it that way, but he said that they could be canceling it because, and I mean, they got apparently anti-drone stuff on the Caravan or whatever it is they're going to be using. Honestly, I don't blame them at all, considering all the drones we've seen of recent. I mean, they're everywhere. And they seem to be extremely fast, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I think this is a little bit bigger than I think even Reagan. Reagan obviously had a few enemies, but as you can see, this guy has even more, right? I would say he has more. Even though Reagan also, there was an attempt on, him as well. Still, again, this seems to be bigger to me. And of course, another thing, we're going to get into actually a number of big things. We're just getting started, okay? This is an interesting clip. You might want to see this clip. Let's check this out.
The speaker not.
I guess I should say this. I should set this up a little bit. Here we got Speaker Johnson apparently in the room with Joe and the entire entourage. Chuck, Schumer, all Nancy's in there. They're all around Joe to make sure everything goes right, of course. And it actually took 2 months for him to even get a meeting with Joe. And then Joe does this. Check this out. Check out what Joe does.
I just need a couple minutes together. Would y'all just leave us alone? And I looked up on the faces of some of the staff standing around the wall, and they're like, oh, no, he did it. So he called it. He's the commander-in-chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office right over the rug by that coffee table.
So all those that were trying to make sure he says the right thing are no longer in the room. Of course, this could go a little sideways. Let's check out what happens.
And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed.
Okay, so this is a speaker, all right? He says that he finally realized that he actually didn't know what he signed. This is literally a classic case of when you have someone who's an elder, like, for example, let's say you have just a weird situation. Let me explain. For example, let's say you have an elderly person, they're starting to forget things. Let's say the daughter or the son is not on the up and up. They're not they're after the money. So they get that elderly mother to sign off everything, right? You see what I'm getting at? Like, oh, you're just signing something else. Just sign this right. Are you okay? I'll sign it. So you see what I mean? So in other words, they're manipulating, of course, him to sign things, telling him it's something else while he's signing things away that make no sense, right? And perhaps this was something happening. This is okay. I can't, verify this is true or not, but this is what he said. He happened to be in the room, he claims, and all the stuff was said. If this really happened, that would mean that they're basically manipulating him to sign stuff and are just taking advantage of him for not being fully cognitive. And would that be really surprising? I mean, honestly, would that really be surprising? You know what I mean? So this is a very interesting little thing to notice. Also, of course, talking about the same topic, we have a former president and his wife having issues of recent. We're talking about Michelle and, of course, Barack. Check this out. This is from Megyn Kelly.
How's our former president doing?
He's doing okay.
He's doing all right.
Yeah. He's still working too hard, but I think that's something he will always do.
What is he working on there? How is he working so hard? Okay, let's just keep playing.
Yeah. That was our anniversary date. You got to pick your husband right.
Okay.
Okay. It's like he got a lot cuter when I found out he was from Hawaii. I was like, oh, okay.
That is funny.
Okay, this on the heels of reports denied by Jennifer Aniston that there may be something going on between Barack and Jennifer Aniston. But Jennifer Aniston came out and said, this is a tabloid report.
So, of course, recently we've seen that she didn't show up at Jimmy Carter's funeral, although we saw Barack and 47 talking, getting along quite well, actually, smiling, talking. And it dawned on me, is this a guy, it might be a little bit behind some of the stuff we've been seeing? Again, we saw that was in the room, particularly in the room when Joe was talking to Johnson here, Speaker Johnson, that there was Chuck, of course, Schumer, Nancy, and others in the room. But I'm kind of curious if it's kind of like a lot of them all deciding behind the scenes what, of course, is put out by Joe when he's not all there cognitively. And could Barack have had a hand in on that? We don't know. But it is interesting how sort of his presence is, you know what I mean? He seems more like a man of authority still. Not like he's just in retirement, building some sort of thing to memorialize his presidency or something. It just seems a little bit more than that. We don't know for sure. It is curious. And of course, this whole thing with Michelle and Jennifer Aniston. Now, of course, Michelle is not going to be at the inauguration either. Yet, Barack will be there, right? So it makes you really wonder what's going on here. And of course, all the former presidents are going to be at the inauguration, but they're not going to be at the dinner afterwards. And that also, a lot of people are wondering why that's the case. But it is interesting, maybe that will even be canceled because, of course, if he was already sworn in today, all this other stuff is just ceremonial. And if anything, it could be something that, could be a problem for him, obviously, considering how much people don't want him there as the president, right? So that's something to take into consideration as well. It is interesting. This picture was put out by Michelle. Love you, honey. Happy birthday to the love of my life. You fill every room with warmth, wisdom, humor, and grace. And it is interesting, the timing. They put this out right after everyone was talking about, is there something going on here? Is there a breakup coming? So it is curious, the timing. Of course, it is her birthday, so it makes sense. But still, then we got this here. 47 in millennia make a grand entrance into Washington, D.C., witnessing dazzling fireworks display. The event includes the song Nissan Dorma, which is featured at the end of the movie, Sum of All Fears. That movie had Ben Affleck in it, Morgan Freeman in it. It's actually a really good movie. During the scene, when this song is playing in the movie, apparently the traitors are, taken care of, if you know what I mean, as you can read there on the screen. It is curious why he's playing that song. Is he hinting at something? You can see his stone-faced look right there. It's like he's looking in the camera. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know, man. It is interesting. I don't know what that means. It could be just a troll. It could be just a troll on the other side, kind of messing with their heads. Kind of like when you look at these UFC fighters and boxers, they'll start playing songs as they're entering in that just really mess with the mind of the other team. You know what I mean? Like, they'll say things before the match just to try to get inside their head and just really mess with them. I kind of feel like it's a tactic like that. I don't know, but that's just kind of a thought. Of course, you have also Jimmy Kimmel slam Sylvester Stallone for calling 47 the second, of course, George Washington. And interestingly about that, something came out today that I didn't, this didn't come out today, but I didn't realize this factor to this. So, of course, I already mentioned before there, Mel and Sylvester Stallone and John Voight were all declared special ambassadors, right, to Hollywood. What I didn't realize is that Stallone had been writing a movie and just put out a trailer recently about corrupt, of course, officials and them doing things, very dark, of course, things. And I didn't realize he put out a movie like that. I'm curious if there's some sort of thing being said there as well. I don't know. Right? At any rate, so you get kind of the idea of some of this. You also have the factor of our economy being, I would say, almost intentionally being destroyed over the last few years. You couldn't say it per se. You could just say they dropped the ball everywhere, or it was somewhat intentional. I don't know. They obviously printed all that money. That clearly didn't help. That made inflation that caused the economy to be on the rocks as it is. But you have Kohl's is closing dozens of stores. We have, of course, 450 Walgreens stores closing this year. And this is just barely, there's so many of these stories. I'm sure you've seen some of them. And, of course, we have here them talking about Black Swan events coming this year, which clearly refers to things that can overturn, turn things around the wrong direction. like perhaps Ukraine or something like this. People predicting, of course, what could happen. Another one of those happening again. There's all these things that are talking about, almost like some sort of movie we're living in, right? And of course, on top of that, you have all these other stories with regards to the LA fires. Some might think that's what happened there. I don't know. The fact that they had insurance canceled just before it occurred, no water in fire hydrants, and of course the strange anomalies of certain homes just somehow remaining unscathed. 1 out of 50 or 100 of them just sitting there on their own. How did that happen? It's a good question. I covered it in a previous video, but actually I'm just kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.